Hello and welcome to the Fairy Little Podcast. I'm Marcia, also known as Fairy Little, and welcome to my Fairy Little Knitting Podcast. I'm known as Fairy Little on Instagram and Ravelry, and I did have a Facebook page, but I have actually deactivated my Facebook account. So I'm no longer on Facebook, but you can find me on Ravelry and Instagram, and the easiest way to get a hold of me if you need to message me is on Instagram. So welcome to the podcast. I have been doing a lot of knitting, oh my goodness, and I do have some finished objects. A couple of them are not ready to be seen quite yet, but hold tight because they will be coming out very soon for you to see, and I'm very excited about them. One of them is actually here. You've already seen this finished object, but one of the things I've been working on is another one of these. This is my Pasqua shawl. It is a pie shawl that I designed, and one second and I'll show you the back. So it's my Pasqua shawl, and I have been working on it. I am working on one right now. I'll show you actually. So before I get this out to test knitters, I wanted to make a few changes to it, a few adjustments, you might say. One of the adjustments I have made to the pattern is I have added, in this section here, I've added more of the lace. So there's more repeats of this in here. And another thing that I've changed is each of those repeats actually will line up with the center stitch of the, well, it lines up on this one, but when I made that change, it didn't line up. So I did some math and fandangled it, and it all matches up. So the center stitch up the center matches, and then the next section, that is that repeat of that lace, also matches up with the center stitch on one of these repeats. So that's all lining up, and I'm doing it in one color, in a single color, because sometimes it's nice to see what something would look like, not just in the, like it originally called for three colors. There's three colors in this, and I talk about it more in my last episode, so if you want to go back and look at that, I talk about my yarn choices. This bright pink is actually one that I dyed myself. And these are, all three of these are merino cashmere nylon blend is what they are. So I'm reknitting it, and I'm reknitting it in Sweet Fiber in her denim blue color. And so I cast this on about 3 days ago, I want to say. And so, yep, it's still the pie shawl, but there's the repeats coming out, and then I'm back into the lace, and I only have a few more repeats of this portion of lace to do, and then that section will be done, and then I will be going back into this lace here, and then to the outside lace, which is just a little bit different. So it's three different kinds of lace. It's not difficult lace, but if it's your first foray into lace, I would suggest that you do a different knit pattern, because this big one here involves moving a stitch marker around a little bit. So, so if it's your first lace, then unless you're super brave, I would say maybe not this pattern for you at this time. But it's a lot of fun. It is more of a intermediate pattern. It's not a hard pattern, but it is more intermediate, as well as it will be charted. So that is coming up. The yarn is 80% superwash merino and 20% nylon. And again, that is in the denim colorway. So Sweet Fiber, oh, there we go. And her yarns are so beautiful. I love knitting with her yarn. I knit a version of my Skaha sweater in Sweet Fiber in the Luna colorway, and it is my favorite sweater. Absolutely my favorite sweater. I wear it all the time, and the yarn is just so beautiful and lovely to knit with. And so I'm going to be working with her yarn more in the future for some designs that I'm for some designs I'm going to be working on. So I'm really excited about that. So that's one thing. Another thing that I have been working on is I was sent this from, it's Kinda Sock Magic from Wool and the Gang, and it's an advanced pattern. It's a kit, and I am in the process of knitting up the sock. They send the knitting needles, the wood needles, for you to knit with. And this is the color. The color actually shows very different from what the packaging showed. I thought this was going to like have in the in-between, I think it was like supposed to be like a turquoisey green color, and it's just a really light blue. So, but I'm finding that when I first sit down to knit it, you have to have correct gauge to get the pattern as it's supposed to display. And I have tinked back quite a bit because when I first sit down to knit it, my gauge is at 1 gauge, and then and it just changes as I get comfortable. So I have to be very aware of what my gauge is doing when I'm knitting on it. So this isn't very mindless knitting for me because I have to keep an eye on what my gauge is doing so that the pattern doesn't go off and start just doing stripes. But it's an enjoyable knit. It's just not one that I can like zone out on, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So the yarn comes in, it's Wool and the Gang, and it comes in a big package, and it comes with the knitting needles that you'll need. It comes with a skein of yarn, and it's a smart skein, so it tells you exactly how to start, where to start pulling from, and how to cast on, and then where to put the yarn for your afterthought heel, because you do the afterthought heel, and then that doesn't mess up the yarn patterning. And you can order those kits from Wool and the Gang. So, and it comes with this cool little book, and it tells you about finding your gauge, and the first, I think, 2 or 3 pages is just on how to do it and finding your gauge and how to find your gauge, and then how to actually knit them. And it actually has links and stuff in the book for knitting techniques, what you'll need, long tail cast on, that sort of thing. So it's very, very complete. Like, it's very, very cohesive. Everything you need is there. And it's enjoyable. I might get better gauge if I change my needles to metal needles, though. Metal is usually my preferred method of knitting. So I'm going to, I might swap them out for metal, but they are nice wood needles to work with. Don't get me wrong. They're really nice to work with. It's just preferences, I guess. So yeah, so that's, I've been working on that. I have another sock that I've been working on. I took a trip and I needed something to take on the plane with me, and I've had needles taken away before on my way back from Mexico, so I wanted to make sure I used wood needles, and I had Haya circular, but the 9-inch, and here they are. Actually, they're sticking out of my yarn. So these are them. They're a little bit warped from how I knit with them, but my knitting was very slow with them, and again, preference. My hands actually cramped up because of how I held them, and I tried to change how I knit, like a couple different ways to try to keep my hands from cramping, and it did in a pinch, but it's not my preferred way of knitting. So as soon as I got home, I took these out, and they are Hayas. and Hiya is one of my favorite brands of needles, and I switched it out for another pair of Hiyas. But these are my lace, these are my sharps, sorry, 2.00 millimeter needles, and they are the Hiya sharps, and they are, let me see here, it says H18 US zeros, so these are a 0. And the yarn that I'm knitting with is called Peace, Love, and Yarn, and it is in the Kestrel colorway. Oh, in the Kestrel base, sorry, in the Bambino colorway. It's 100% superwash merino, and it's got 430 yards of a fingering weight yarn. So it's just superwash merino. There is no nylon in here. So this is my first time knitting. I do believe this is the first time I've knit a pair of socks that have no nylon or silk in them for strength. So I'll see how they work up, but I'm really enjoying it. The yarn is really, just fresh is the word that comes to mind for me. I think this would make a really beautiful hat, this yarn, and actually more than once I thought about ripping out the sock and actually doing a hat, and I might still do that. This is as far as I've gotten because I was such slow knitting with the other needles. And it just, it's something that I would have to get used to, is knitting with the other kind. So most of this knitting was actually done on these needles after I got back. So yeah, so it's coming along. It's just one of those things that I keep in the car, and I just grab it whenever I need some knitting. But I have been doing, actually, the lace that I've been working on has been my car knitting this last little while. So that's what's happening. I have another project that is on the needles, and I think I'm just gonna, I hate it when people do this, but I'm gonna wait till the next episode to show you, because I have a finished object in it as well, and I want to take some really nice pictures to debut this new design in its best light for you, and I'm really excited about it. It's going to be going to a test knitter very, very shortly, and it's something that is very simple to knit, but yeah, I'm not going to go into any more detail, and I apologize if that annoys anybody, but on the next episode I should have some really great pictures taken, which they should be happening in the next couple of weeks. So hopefully I'll have them for the next episode, but I'm very excited about that. Yeah, and there's another thing that I've been working on, actually, that I just noticed sitting in front of me. And this it's again on Hiya Sharps 2.0 millimeter needles. I'm doing magic loop. It's a square, as you can see. It's actually a coaster. I'm knitting some coasters for our living room, for each of the girls to have their own coaster to put their drinks on furniture and that sort of thing. And actually I might do another kind, like a cozy or something as well, to go around drinks, which would be really, really cool, like cups or whatever. So I don't know what this yarn is. It is it came out of my big bin right there of yarn. So it's just one of those extra spares that is made for my scrappy blanket. Sorry if you heard a little bit of a tinking. My needle hit my microphone. So I apologize if there's extraneous noise there that I wasn't able to edit out. I will try. So there's also another wonderful thing. A lovely friend of mine she used to have a podcast. Her name's Georgina, and she had a podcast. She started around the same time as Scylla and I did, and she gifted me a few patterns, and one of them especially, I'm excited about all of them. Thank you so much, Georgina. But one of them especially has excited me just to an excessive amount, and I'm about to show you. All right, so I have watched the Bakery Bears for a long time. They were one of the major inspirations for Syl and I to start podcasting. Kay and Dan are both very lovely, lovely people. Kay is such a talent at designing, and she just takes stuffy designs, like little stuffed toys, to a whole new level. And I have knit her designs before. My kids love them. Love, 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 love them. And Georgina so wonderfully gifted me one of Kay's patterns, and I'm so excited about it. It's Mr. Fitzwilliam Fox, and he is so cute. Oh my goodness. So Mr. Fitzwilliam Fox, he is going to be knit up, and I picked up some yarn for him, and I'm hoping to cast him on soon, but I have so many other things going that I want to get those things like off of my plate first, and then cast this on as like everything should be fun that you knit, obviously, but as like a treat, like a nugget, a little piece of wonderful that I'm really excited about. And I picked up some Cascade yarns in Venezuela worsted. So this is going to be my Mr. Fitzwilliam Fox colors. So this is going to be his nose and ears. This is going to be his body. This is going to be his sweater, and then I have some other worsted weight yarn here that I can use for his boots and his scarf. So, and I think the scarf is knit in. It's either a DK or a fingering weight. It looks more like a fingering to me. So I'm really excited about that. Kay's patterns are so well done. She includes so many great photos and explanations as to how to do each step. I'm not going to show you the pieces that are part of the pattern, but like, look at that. It just gives you such good explanations, great photos, the piecing. I have knit 4 of her Bakery Bear patterns. Well, Mrs. Bakery Bear and then Mr. Bakery Bear. So I've done 2 Mrs. Bakery Bears, 2 Mr. Bakery Bears, and a baby Bakery Bear, which is just taking the Bakery Bear pattern, and I just knit it in sock weight yarn is what I did. So I just took the exact same pattern, knit it on a lighter weight yarn, and used smaller needles, and it came out with this cute little baby, and he's a little rainbow baby. So he's adorable. So yeah, so this is something that I'm very excited about. I don't even know if I'll have it cast on by the time I see you next, because I've got so many things going on. Yeah, it's been really hectic this last few months, and I didn't go to Edinburgh Yarn Festival, but it is something that I'm talking about going to next year with my husband, and we're possibly going to bring the kids with us. So we'll turn it into a big family holiday. We'll go to the Yarn Festival, and probably I'll go to the Yarn Festival and he'll take the kids exploring the city, and then we'll take a trip down, maybe to like through England and into France or something, and just take the kids on a big vacation is kind of what we're thinking of turning it into. We'll see if it comes to fruition, but we're it's on the table for discussion at this point. Nick is my husband, and he travels for work a lot. So he was in Chile and Argentina, and I said, hey, when you're in Chile and Argentina, if you see some yarn, would you mind? obviously you need more yarn. And he laughs and he says, okay, I'll take a look. So he came home with, so he said, I got you something, but I don't know how much you need to make a sweater. I don't know how heavy the yarn is or what. He's like, I don't know anything. So he picked up these 2 yarns for me. They're both alpaca yarns. They're both 100 grams. And he's like, is that enough for a sweater? He's adorable. And I said, of course it's not enough for a sweater, but I could make a nice hat out of it, or a scarf out of both of these. I think they would make some really nice brioche. Would be really nice in this. It'd be a very soft brioche though, because it's alpaca, so it's got more of a drape and it's a little bit heavier, so it might pull the stitches a little bit more. But if I do it in a tighter gauge, it might hold it a little bit better. I'll see. I'll let you know how that goes if I do brioche with it. But these are really beautiful colors there. This is like a very mustardy, and this is a very, see, I don't know all of the shades in the rainbow. But this one is a very, it's more of a yellow green than a blue green, if that makes sense. But together, I think they'd look really good. My husband did a good job. He doesn't necessarily see colors the way other people see them, so I think he did a good job here. And yeah, these will be great. It's worsted weight yarn, and yeah, there's enough to do something here with and do it with them together. So I think that's going to be pretty rad. So in our big renovation world, we had a friend of ours did a whole bunch of electrical for us, and he asked me to make him a sweater. And I sent him some yarn choices and color choices, and he chose. And so I went about trying to find this yarn in the colorway that he wanted. He wants one of my Skaha sweaters in his size, and he would like it knit out of this Madeline Tosh Chunky. It's in the smokestack colorway. And so I went online and I went searching for this. And I got all of the skeins I need except 3. And I mentioned on, I think it was Twitter. Well, it was on Instagram, and then it forwarded onto Twitter because I have them linked. And Mad Tosh got a hold of me, and they said, send us an email and we'll send you the information that we need from you and we'll send it to you. Of course, I'd be paying for it, right? So I emailed them, and I phoned them, and I emailed them, and then I messaged them, and I have not heard back from them yet. And so I have this yarn. I want to wait until I have it all to cast the sweater on. And once I cast it on, I'll just get it done and then take some lovely photos of it. I can't wait to knit with this yarn. It is so nice. It's so soft, and I'm really looking forward to it. But I just need the remainder. So that hasn't been cast on yet. I know I talked about it last time that as soon as the yarn was going to arrive, I was going to cast it on. Not all the yarn has arrived yet. And being that it is going to be a different dye lot than this, I want to alternate between skeins so it doesn't look like there's a big line anywhere. I want to make sure that I do a really good job on this for him. So yeah, so that is also still coming. That's it for the knitting part. I'm just going to go into some jibber jabber now, which is just kind of like what's been going on and why I haven't been here in almost a month. So if you're just here for the knitting, thanks for joining me, and we'll see you next time. And those of you that are interested in the jibber jabber part, let's get to it. So starting off right after my last episode, there was a whole bunch of stuff going on for my dad. Some of you who've been watching for a while know that he is in a extended care facility. He broke his back last year, or a year and a half ago, he broke his back. He was in assisted living and he broke his back, and now he's in extended care. And he struggles with walking, so he's mostly wheelchair bound now, and he's been struggling at the place that he is living. There are some issues that I have with where he's living, so we had to have a big group meeting with the whole team. There was probably 30 of us at a table, or 25 of us at a table that make up this team that's supporting my dad. And he is really not happy, and that is very apparent. I had to go in quite a few times that week before the meeting. I went in and I would just go in and clean his room for him. There was stuff on the floor that should never be on the floor, and they had tons of excuses as to why conditions were as unsanitary as they were. But yeah, so I was going in and cleaning up stuff for my dad, which was an extra time away as well as working. Our insurance claim is still going on. I spent 2 weeks doing drywall and mudding, and while Nick was away in Chile and Argentina, I got a lot of drywall cut and put up, and I just did that by myself. So I put drywall up on the ceiling by myself, and I held it with one hand. I was standing on 2 chairs and I held it with one hand and started screwing it in with another, and got one of the kids to put the screws on the end of my screwdriver so I could screw it in. And I'm holding this thing and balancing it, and I was very sore for a few days after that. And I was also painting, so there was a couple weeks in there that there was no knitting, absolutely no knitting done at all. It was just renovation stuff, and then the patch that had been done for our deck above our living space was leaking water because we had a couple big rain showers, and when they had put the patches in, it was too cold to seal them, so we just had tarped them, and then they were leaking, and so then I had to seal those up, so they are all sealed. It's not leaking at all anymore, which yay. And now I just have to do the finishing on it. I just had to wait till everything dried and set, and then I can do the actual finishing on that. There's a company that is supposed to be coming in to do some drywall on. It's a pony wall, it's a short wall, and another ceiling area, and they will be doing mudding and sanding and priming and painting as well, and then baseboards, and then I can start to get my whole living space reorganized and balanced again. Within that, we went on a holiday, which was a much needed holiday. We went, one of my friends got married in Mexico, and it was just south of Playa del Carmen, which is south of Cancun. So it was about just over an hour away from Cancun. And we had a really great time. It was really wonderful. I love Mexico so much. I love the people there. They are so friendly and just lovely. And I know that there's a certain aspect of we're tourists, so we see a lot of people that work within the tourism industry or within the hotel industry sort of thing. But we always try to go outside of that. So we took our kids to, because the girls came with us, we took them to a restaurant that was out of the tourist area and just went a little hole in the wall restaurant. And the people who own the restaurant were so nice. They were so friendly. And we speak not a whole lot of Spanish. We can get by. And in Canada, Spanish isn't our second language that we learn. French is. Canada is a 2-language country, so those are both our national languages. So you learn French in school, But I took Spanish after I was out of high school, and I've done Duolingo and stuff like that, and like done other Spanish classes as well since being a whole grown up. And so we can get by. And the food was amazing. One of the places we stopped at was actually on the side of a major highway. We walked down to this like just little spot that had like a chain link fence that they close, and that's how they closed the restaurant. And it was so good. It was the best fish tacos I've ever had in my life. The food we were at a resort. The food at the resort was amazing. We stayed at the Grand Palladium. And so there's like, it's the Grand Palladium, and then they have like different areas as part of the Grand Palladium. That's all attached. And it was amazing. The food there was great. The entertainment was great. It was the largest resort I've been to as far as in Mexico. I've gone to Mexico a couple other times, and I have always enjoyed myself. I've always, I love to get to know the local culture and the local people. And I just had such an amazing time. And I'm not meaning to like wax poetic so much about Mexico, but it came at a time when I really, really needed that. And it's just, there's just so much going on in the world. And it was just a nice break from everything, like everything, my life, the world. I enjoyed myself immensely. And of course, when I was there, it was super humid. We had beautiful weather the whole time. It was super humid, and my hair was just like curled the whole time. I got tanned. The last day I didn't use my mama sunscreen. I used sunscreen that it was for the kids, actually, and I was surprised that it didn't work as well as my sunscreen. And now I know from this point on, I'm just going to use mine on everybody, which it's more expensive, but now I know why. So I put the kids' sunscreen all over my face, and then we went out for the day, and we had a great adventure. And we went into the city, and I was wearing a hat the whole time, and right across here, I'd sweat, and I sweat all of the sunscreen off. So when we got back to the resort, I took off my hat, I didn't reapply sunscreen, and I had a burn right across my forehead, which it was the only burn I got, and I was out of the sun for most of the time in the beginning. I just kind of like to be in the shade, but it was just so nice, and a lot there. You can't avoid the sun essentially, but yeah, I got this nice burn across my forehead, but that's the only, like, possibly the worst thing that happened. We also went to Chichen Itza. We went on a tour. We looked at what it would cost for us to like take a cab versus getting a tour, going on a bus and having a guide and that sort of thing. And it was less expensive to take the tour. So we did that. We didn't book it through the hotel. We booked it through through an online site. I can't remember which one it was. It's a really well-known one though, so I do apologize. Maybe I'll be able to remember and put it down here. But we went to Chichen Itza. It is one of the 7 wonders of the world. It is amazing. It is a pyramid that's built by the Mayans, and it is a huge, huge archaeological site. And when you look at pictures of Chichen Itza, of course, it shows the main pyramid. You cannot walk on it anymore. You used to be able to probably a decade ago or so, but you can't anymore. And then there's a section where they used to play games, and it's like it's like a big hallway with stone walls, and they've got 2 little hoops one on each side, and the winner of the games would be sacrificed to their god. And it just, to be in that much, like within that much history, always strikes me. And I always just like, it's almost one of those moments where I almost have to catch my breath, because it just, so many people have passed through there before, and it's just so ancient and so beautiful, and it, yeah, speechless. But the ruins are so much larger than just that main area. And in that main area, there was a lot of things to buy, and there was a lot of vendors selling things, and they were, some of the guys that were selling things were quite aggressive, to say the least. But you just say no, thank you, and keep walking or whatever. But if you can go outside of that, like there's still vendors along the way to some of the other areas that aren't as well toured, I guess. And they're not as in as good of shape, but there's so much beautiful history there. Like the carvings in the stone is just, oh my goodness. I could not recommend that more highly. It is, I've wanted to go to Chichen Itza for so long. I made the kids watch documentary after documentary after documentary on Chichen Itza before we went, so they were well versed as to what the history was around it, and you know, that it was monumental to be there, like that it was a big deal, and they're young and they don't quite understand the importance of a site like that, but at least it gave them a grasp of, they should try to remember this moment, kind of thing. And one of the other things that we found was that on the front of the pyramid, where you first come into, the stairs look really nice. And then on two sides, the stairs are in pretty good shape. On two sides, they're much more run down and not in as good of shape. So when you walk in on the front side, it looks really, really like nice. That's where everyone gets their pictures taken. They stand in front of it and they clap, and it makes a sound back at you. You gotta clap at it, baby. Clap at it. It claps back. And but on the other side, nobody's there. And so we took some photos on the back side of it, because there wasn't thousands of tourists waiting for their picture in front of it. There was just us. So we took pictures, and there's also an additional area that is being excavated, another archaeological site on the back side that's, it's roped off, but it's down into the ground. It's not above the ground, so it's into the ground. And you can see that there used to be some sort of courtyard or something on that side that they're excavating, and it's just is so brilliant. I loved it so much. I love archaeology. I love ancient archaeology. Is my favorite. I've watched so many documentaries on pyramids throughout the world, because they're everywhere. But also like megalithic and monolithic sites, just they also intrigue me. Like I've been to Machu Picchu in Peru, and I know that now they're limiting the amount of tourists that can go there, but that's actually where I got engaged, is the mountain behind Machu Picchu. My husband made me climb that thing, and I'm terrified of heights, and I got to the top, and that's where he proposed. So that's a really amazing memory that we have at this amazing world site. And so it's something that we really enjoy together. When I was in Ireland, we went to Brunaboyne, and we went to a bunch of other ancient burial sites. And I don't know what it is, just interests me immensely. I would love to one day go to Egypt, to go to the pyramids there. I know it needs to be a lot safer there before I go there. But that is definitely on my list. And when it comes to the pyramids in ancient Egypt, I have watched so many documentaries from like from the actual scientist to pseudoscience, because I'm just so interested in everybody's take on it, you know, so it's just, yeah, interesting to me. So we had a bit of a harrowing experience on the drive from the resort to the airport. It was the first day that it rained. The whole time we were there, it was pouring rain. The roads were like washed out, like not washed out, but like flooded. They had a good chunk of water on them. And the driver of the vehicle that we were taking to the airport hydroplaned a couple times, and I had to not look because I was terrified, and I was holding onto the seat and my like white knuckling it, and I'm just like, I can't look up, I'm just gonna look down. And I've got my kids are there, and I'm just like trying to like keep the conversation light and not talking about how terrified I am. And I went through like the 5 stages of grief in the back of this van, and I'm like in denial. I'm bargaining. It was so scary. And when we got there, one of the ladies who was sitting beside me, she was from a different resort, but also going back to Canada. And she walks out the door and she tells the driver, she's like, thanks for getting us here alive. It was so funny. And I was just like, yeah. I am going to be teaching in May at the Sorrento Knitting Retreat, which is coming up. And I'm really excited about that. I'll be teaching a brioche class. And I'm going to be teaching at Fiberphilia as well, another brioche class, which is at the end of June, beginning of July. It's the Canada Day long weekend. That's when Fiberphilia is, which is a great time to be in New Denver. That's where that one is held. And it's such cute little communities, and they just do Canada Day really right. There's a pancake breakfast, they have a parade, they have a whole bunch of event things going on, and just, it's just like, I love it so much. It's such cute small town fun. And I'm from a small town, so I just brings back so many memories. So I'm going to be teaching at Fiberphilia. That reminds me, I have to get some stuff off to the lady who is running it, Kathy. And yeah, so I have some stuff coming up that will be knitting for you guys to see next time. I have classes coming up to teach, which I'm going to be working on. This summer is proving it's going to be very busy. Still working. I'm working nights, so I sleep during the day, which right now I should actually be sleeping, but I really wanted to get something out to you guys to say, hey, I'm still here and I have missed you as much as you've missed me. So for me, for now, that's all. Thanks for watching. I really appreciate it. If you enjoyed yourself, please just subscribe and hit that thumbs up button. And if you want to connect with me on Instagram, that would be fantastic. And I hope that you have an amazing week. I hope all your knitting dreams are coming true, and that you are doing well. And I will talk to you soon. Until next time. And this is my little podcast about knitting and sometimes sewing-ish. Hi, and I am... merino. So, I think that's